Hi, and welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so blessed, and I mean really blessed, to have a special guest with me today. I always call her the woman with the beautiful smile. And her name is Jeannie Henderson Minter. Welcome to WIN TV, Diversity in the Community.
Thank you for having me, Theresa. Such an honor to be here.
Oh, it's an honor to have you.
Oh, girl, I'm so happy you invited me. Thank you.
Down through the years, my prayer partners and I would say, we saw Jeannie wherever we see you at, and she always has that beautiful smile.
Oh, thank you.
So I thank you for taking the time to come down. And do you want to say a little bit about yourself before we get into the actual interview?
Well, good morning. I'm just glad to be here this morning. I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Jeannie Minter. I am a widow, a mother, a sister, a niece, a friend, and I love the Lord with my whole heart.
Yes.
I'm going through the challenges of recovering from losing a spouse to COVID. I think about him and miss him every single day. But I have to keep it moving. So Theresa, I love to do ministry. I am director of benevolence at my church. I appreciate that God trusts me with this ministry. So that's probably the most important thing that I'll do in this life. Other than that, I'm just a child of God who just loves him dearly.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And you're here today because you have written a book.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's called More Than a COVID Story.
Yes.
And so I'm really honored to have you here today because I know that this is going to be, it can be, a difficult situation, but you got a positive spin on everything. And so I'm going to have a few questions I'm going to ask you about your book. I've read it, and when I picked it up, I could not put it down.
Oh, that makes me feel good.
Yeah, I could not put it down. I read the whole thing in I started one night and I finished it the next morning.
That makes me feel really good that it captured your interest enough to continue reading it.
Yes, it did. Because
thank you.
It not only talks about the tragedies, the hurt, but you also have something positive in it, and so we're going to get into that. I don't want to spill any of the beans. What was the inspiration for this body of work?
Well, first of all, having COVID, and having COVID even after being vaccinated. Girl, my husband spent, about 30 minutes on the phone making his appointment to get that vaccine. And he was in a different age group than, my age group. So he got a chance to get his vaccine like a couple of months before I did. But just watching him go through the process of wanting to protect our family to get that vaccine. And after he got vaccinated, then he got the second vaccine because at that time, that was all that was offered to us.
Right, right.
Even after getting it, and I got mine, and we still got COVID. And the things that happened after that, Theresa, it was kind of hard. We got COVID on July the 25th, 2021. I was the one who was not doing well. He was the one that didn't make it.
Wow.
Yeah. Hard story, real hard story. So that was my motivation for writing, because the things that transpired after losing him to COVID, it was like one major event, disaster after the next. And so I said, God, there has to be more to this, than just losing my husband to COVID and then the things that happened thereafter.
Yeah. Oh my God. And it really brought out your trust, and oh my God.
Oh, absolutely.
can't.
Absolutely.
I cannot even imagine.
Absolutely. You have to trust God.
Yes.
Yes.
Even when things are not good, you got to trust
Absolutely.
Him.
You do. You really do.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to complete your book?
Well, let's see. I moved out of my home, which I had to leave. I moved out of my home in May of 2022. And I pondered the thoughts. And then I was approached by a publisher. She said, "You have a story to tell."
Yes.
So toward the end of 2022, I thought about, okay, it's time to get pen to paper. Let's start writing. And so I'll say from January until this point, that's how long it took. I mean, once you start writing, if you have an inspiration, once you get going, it just flows.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my goodness. How did you go about selecting an editor?
How did I select her?
Yeah.
Actually, she selected me.
She selected you.
She really did.
She reached out to you.
She reached out to me. And I thought about that. I said, Lord, if someone is reaching out to me to write my story, then I'm going to take a closer look at this. And you know what was interesting, Theresa? I mentioned it to somebody that I had been approached to write my story and, you know, perhaps do a memoir, a book of my memoirs. And the person was negative. She said, well, you don't really have a story. I mean, you have a story, but you don't have a book. That's not enough to a book. And I said, okay. I said, you're right. Maybe not. Maybe just an article or something.
No.
So when I started writing, and that was another inspiration. You tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I read that book, and yes, you did have a book, and you got even more. You got even more in you.
There's so much to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
So much more to talk
I've
about.
been in a writers group, and I remember going up to Martha's Vineyard when we were in a class, and there were a lot of people that, you know, people hadn't written before or whatever. And so she was our inspiration. She called it putting the blood on the page.
Oh my.
In other words, stuff that people had inside of them that they had never released before. And once people started writing and telling their story, what a release. And some people hadn't told some things that happened to them since they were children, and they were in their 60s.
Oh my. And you know what that's about? People are afraid to share their truth.
Yeah.
For such a reason like I had, you know, where you don't really have a book. Or, you know, some people just don't really want to take the time to hear what you've gone through, because we've all gone through something.
Yeah.
And the thought might be, well, you know what, you haven't gone through any more than I have. And that's where we as sisters, we as people should be more compassionate. You know, don't shut me down if I want to talk. Yeah.
And then you'll find in our situation, we found that some people were like ashamed or whatever to start telling their stuff, but then everybody was like, oh my God, if they told their story, then I can tell mine. So it didn't open up a whole new, you know, that people ended up talking and crying. It was just a big release. And a lot of us, it was a group of us that came up from Harvard, but there were people that came from all over. And some of the stories that they told.
See, I think that's awesome.
It was really wonderful. Oh, I know we could sit here and talk all day. Awesome. Did you at any point consider stopping writing when you started the book? Did you get to the place where you like, I can't do it? Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I had actually gotten to the point where I was ready to share the manuscript with the publisher, and you know, that editing process is really something.
Oh yeah.
And once she started reading it, and then we had a Zoom meeting, and she said, well, I read your book and it's good. She said, but a lot of this we can't use it because we might get sued. Well, okay, I get it. And then after thinking about it, I'm like, well, Lord, maybe I don't want to release this. Maybe this isn't my time. And then I said to her, I said, why don't we just pull it? She said, oh, no, we're not quitting.
Right.
She said, I just said some of the things in here we can't share. She said, but you're not quitting. That's not an option. I spent nights correcting stuff and fixing stuff and crying.
Yeah.
I mean, in the process alone, just writing and reliving everything you've gone through. that was,
I'm sure. I can't
it was
even
enough
imagine.
to say, yeah, I
can't
can't
imagine.
do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The editing process, the writers group I'm in, we are doing an anthology, and some of us have like 3 or 4 stories in it. And we've been, the editor, well, it's a bunch of people though, been working on that for over a year.
Yeah, I'm told it takes a while, but I
Yes.
have to give kudos to my publisher, Stephanie Carter,
Mm-hmm.
who, I mean, she got in there. She did not quit, did not let me quit, you know. She said, oh, yeah, we're going to go through this. And I have to applaud her because I know she read this story over and over.
Yeah.
There were days she would listen to it. And then there was the day she had me to sit and listen to it. So I had to listen to my own story. You know, which is pretty cool, though, because you now hear how your readers will interpret what you've said.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was a good idea.
Well, I'm glad she didn't get, because I'm telling you, and I'll say it again, I started reading at night, and I was falling asleep. I gotta read it, and I got up the next morning to read the rest.
That
and
makes me feel so
yeah,
good.
it was, it just so, and I don't even want to give stuff away, but it was such a good book. Do you have another book on the horizon, you think?
Well, you know what? This beautiful lady in one of my hymns groups gifted me with this subscription, and it's called Storyworth. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No.
But each day, I mean, not each day, let me take that back. Each week on Monday, you'll get a question.
Okay.
And you write a story about the question that was given to you. And at the end of a year, it takes a whole year, at the end of the year, you can either have it printed or you could have it published.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's actually all about your life.
Really?
It's all about your life.
Really?
She asked me a question last week. She said, describe the neighborhood you grew up in. Oh, my siblings and I had a good time with that one. And we talked about the juke joints and the cafes and the blues singers coming in.
Did you come up in the South?
I did. I was raised in Warren, Arkansas.
Okay, and I was in South Carolina. That's why I remember. I recognize the name, the juke joint. I remember my mother them talking about going down to the juke joint.
Yeah, and the kids would stand outside. You know, kind of like on the Color Purple.
Yeah.
The kids would be looking and trying to see who's in there.
And they would be way back up in the woods.
Right. Exactly. And there was always blues singers coming to town, and we wanted to see somebody popular, you know, somebody famous. As we're kids.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that is too funny.
So yeah, that's my book that I'm working on. Yeah.
All right. All right. Is this your first attempt at writing?
It's my first attempt at getting something published.
Okay.
But it's not my first attempt at writing.
Okay.
Because I like to write poetry.
Yeah.
I like to write little crazy stories.
Me too.
You know. So yeah, it's just the first time having something published, but I'll keep doing it because it's something that I love.
See, I knew we had a connection. I like to write too.
I know.
Yeah, I knew it. What advice can you give promising writers?
I can say to promising writers, as my publisher said to me, keep going.
Yeah.
There's a story inside of everyone. So tap into what you'd like to tell and what you'd like to share with your audience and just do it. You know, just don't sit and think about it and ponder it for too long.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
just do it. Pick up your pen and start writing. Yeah, let the words of your heart flow.
Yeah, yes. We have that saying that say, you know, I don't look like what I've been through. And in reading your book again, it kind of resonated with me too about I'm going to talk a little bit about family.
Okay.
And I know in my family, we lost all 3 of my brothers short period of time in between. And in reading your book, I know that you lost siblings and your precious mom. I know that's I know it's deep, but I've been there. But some things people need to know because they can be going through it and see somebody, and it can
Deep
be
breath.
an inspiration. And I do understand. Can be such an inspiration. And so you just want to talk a little bit about that.
So 2019 happened.
Yeah.
And that's how I start my book.
Yeah.
As if 2019 wasn't enough.
Yeah.
After celebrating my 65th birthday in December of 2018, I had, in January the 3rd, I had a mild TIA. I also had a brother who was in Chicago battling colon cancer.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get to him. I wanted to go see him. And I will never forget this, the very first day that I was able to drive again. Because, you know, once you have a TIA, there's all things happen to your brain. You paranoia sets in, you know, you're just uncomfortable. Anyhow, Theresa, the day that I went out to drive was the day that I would lose my brother. And this was the oldest brother, and he had colon cancer. We had no idea that he was that close to his end.
Wow.
That was February 23rd. And mother was celebrating her birthday also in January. And she was just so determined that we would all gather for her birthday. And Lord knows we wanted to.
Yeah.
But I knew that this brother who was battling cancer would not be able to go. My sister also lived in Chicago, and they traveled together. These are two oldest siblings. They traveled together. They wouldn't be able to go. And because of the TIA, I couldn't go either. Wow. And my mom was just, you know, it broke her heart that we couldn't go. Girl. Yeah. Anyhow, I managed to go and, well, no, I'm going too fast. My brother passed away that day on February 23rd. I did go to Chicago for his service. In May, because I didn't go to see my mom for her birthday, I decided to go and spend Mother's Day with her. And I could see, you know, the frailty. I mean, she was so thin, and but anyways, and she was not able to go to church that Sunday. Then I went back in August, and I went because she was being honored by her church, and the choir was had planned a beautiful weekend for her. They did her concert. I went to see her not knowing that I was going to bury her. She passed away the very next week. Wow. Got back to Connecticut, went away to Texas to visit a girlfriend just to get away. While I was there, I spoke to my brother. Hours later, my brother passed away. Wow. A day shy of a month. Wow. So I lost those 3 family members just like that. All in 1 year, all within 6 months. You can't prepare yourself for that.
No, you cannot.
You simply cannot prepare yourself. There are no words to say.
No,
girl, you're gonna lose your family members 3 right together. Yeah. But you know, God is good and He's faithful, and He got us through that.
Yes. Yeah, and that's you know, when I was reading it, and like I said, I was thinking about my brothers. I had one brother who had liver cancer. We knew he was passing, and I would go and see him every day at the hospital, and they brought him home and all that. But then I had another brother that came to visit, and didn't know anything was wrong with him. And then he passed before the one that had the liver cancer. No. And then I remember one uncle was over the house all day, and he was thinking the one that we'd been visiting all the time was the one who passed. And he was like, well, who passed? And so when I read that part of your story, and even the part of with your mom, it just really, you know, and when I saw the part when you said Mother's Day, the end of an era, that just kind of, it just kind of hit. So I, you know. That was it. I knew it was going to, I know it's a tough subject, but it still is something that people that have gone through it or are going through it, it can be an inspiration. Yeah, if you strong enough to withstand the grieving process. I mean, grief will take you out of here. Ooh-wee. Listen. Oh my God. And I'm not ashamed to say I had to get a grief therapist. Oof. Yeah, I told her, I said, listen, I need help. I don't know how to navigate all this. Oh my God, yes. And I was watching my siblings, you know, they were doing the best they could, and it looked like everybody was doing okay. And then you'll talk to somebody else and they say, you know, your sister's really grieving hard. And I'm like, well, I see them, but they kind of hide it. I can't hide that. I need and help. See, that's me, because I'm one of the people. My daughter said to me when my mom passed, and I was there with my mom. I had actually had my hand inside of her gown to feel that last heartbeat. Yeah. And my kids have never seen me cry. And my daughter said, "Ma, I don't know what I'd do because I grieve differently."
Yeah.
In which it would have been better if I could have just ran out in the house and started hollering and whatever. I would have been.
Sometimes that's good though. If
Yeah,
you are able to cry and get it out. But you know, I'm like you, Theresa. I put my hand on her. I just touched her like that to see if I could feel anything. Oh God, I just hit the mic. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
When I touched her, you could feel it. It was just real faint.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it was nothing.
Yep. The same.
And that was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And
I'm like, wow, 103 years old.
Oh, what a blessing.
103, and here you just took your last breath.
What a blessing.
And what a legacy she left behind.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I was talking to my prayer partners, and we were saying that we should write down any kind of little things that we can remember about our mom, so that the other generations that's coming up, you know, will, you know, find the papers or books or whatever, because a lot of things my kids would know, that my mother was a midwife and all, you know, all that kind of stuff.
That's good stuff.
You know, yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
And they see pictures and they think it's me. My grandbaby say, "Grandma, is that you?" I was like, "No." I said, "That's my mommy. I'm your grandma." You know. So, but anyway, it's so important that we take any information we can for the generations and generations down, you know, that they can pick up and, you know, and see our stories.
What I did with my mom before she passed, maybe a year before she passed, I asked if I could interview her. I sat and I captured so many good nuggets.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
All the way back from when she was a child. And living in wood houses, and you know, that wood houses. All the houses are probably wood. What are those shacks? I can't even remember.
We
cabins,
was in a shack.
Log cabins.
That's
what I'm trying to say.
We was in what?
Yeah, oil lamps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Teresa, you don't know anything about
the oil lamps. Yes, I remember before we came to Connecticut, we had one of them houses where you could stand in the front door, you could see all the way through the back.
That's what they call the shotgun house.
Them shotgun houses that stood up, that you could look underneath the house. You could see them. They were up this high. Girl, I was there. There was this resonated so much. What you did, wrote about resonated with me. I've always been a cloud watcher. I love to just lay. I would love to ride in the car with people and sit in the back seat, and I would look at the clouds and try to make out the pictures. So I have a niece who, I guess her sorority or whatever, she has all of these elephants with the trunk, but the trunk was always turned up. So as I read the piece in there about the image of the elephant in the clouds. So would you like to talk about that piece?
Okay, so what that was, my husband's cousin passed away, and we had gone to the viewing, and on the way from the funeral home, we were just driving down the street, quiet.
Yeah.
There was total quietness in the car, silence all the way, and I just happened to look up at the clouds, and I saw the image of an elephant. This time the trunk was down. You know, we didn't speak on it, but the trunk was down. This is something my husband and I always did on our road trips.
Yeah.
We would always do cloud search.
Yeah.
What's that? Do you see that? What's that? And that kind of broke up the monotony of the long drive.
The long drive.
But this particular day would be the last day that we would do a cloud search.
Wow.
And we really weren't cloud searching. We were just driving. And I just happened to look up and I saw that. And now today that we're talking about it, and I'm not superstitious in the slightest.
Yeah.
But that trunk being down.
Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't bring us any blessings. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That now that I look at it, it's kind of, you know, kind of hard.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm sure. Now you both you and your, and I know this is tough, but we talked about it, so I don't want people out there to say, why has she asked her all those questions? But I got permission that I could ask.
It's fine.
You and your husband both were in the hospital, and you first thought you weren't going to make it, but you came out of the hospital.
I did. Actually, they only kept me in the hospital for 8 hours. And the day that I decided that we were going to go to the hospital, mind you, my husband was taking care of me all that week. I was in bed. And he was up. I mean, there was a day that he even went to the pharmacy. You know, he had his gloves and his mask on, and he just went to the drive-through because they wanted to give us some medication for our coughing. And I was bedridden for the whole week. And we had an appointment that Friday evening, a Zoom appointment with our physician. And they looked at him and thought he was doing great. And they looked at me, and I, you know, was barely sitting up because I was so weak, and I had fevers all the time, and he never did. No, John never had a fever. You know, I called him Mr.
Yeah, Mr.
He didn't run a fever, but he did have a really bad cough. And up until Friday, mind you, we got COVID we were diagnosed on Sunday the 25th. And then that Friday the 30th, he looked good, but I could see something was changing. And then Saturday morning, we got up and he said, I'm not going to be able to get us breakfast today. And he said, I'm probably not going to be able to get us lunch either. And he said, can you just go ahead and DoorDash, you know, some meals for today? And I will never forget this. He went to the door when the food came, and just a little bag. He was walking toward me with the bag, and then I saw him do this. And then he said, and I said, give it to me. And I took the bag, and then I said, go lay down. I'll take care of this. I got it. And he thought I couldn't do it. He thought I wasn't able to. Honey, when you need to do something, that strength will kick in there. So I said, let me get him some food. And I went in the kitchen, and I made a little plate, just a little plate. And I did the same for me. And I gave it to him, and he was lying down, and he looked at the food, and he said, just put it right there. And so I did. And I guess at some point he raised up and took a bite of it. But that was that. He just, yeah. And I saw that. And I said, John, I'm going to take us to the hospital. And he said, well, we'll first call the doctor and see what they want to do. And I said, I don't care what they want to do. I got to get us some help today. I'm weak, and you're weak now. And I said, So I showered, and I told him that I was going to help him get a shower after I finished. I didn't have it. I couldn't help him. I left the water running, and I had to just go get back in the bed and just do the best I could to get myself ready. At some point, I got back up, and I saw him sitting on the side of the tub with his back to the door, but he was just sitting on the side of the tub, but I could see him washing. I said, okay, at least he's doing that. And then when he got done, he went and laid down. He didn't come in the bedroom to get dressed. He went and laid down on the futon. He just curled up in a fetal position, naked, and he didn't say anything else. Never said another word in the house. I called the paramedics immediately when I saw that. And when they got there, I don't know who dressed him, if he got dressed himself or they did. I have no clue. I have no clue. But in the hospital, they came and they got us. When the ambulance rolled up to the hospital, they grabbed him out. I never saw him again in person because we got separated. Just that quickly. Yeah.
Ooh, the strength that God would give you to go through. When I'm sitting here talking to you, it's like, how in the world? But it's what the saying, but God. But God. But God. My goodness. When you heard the voice of the Lord say, this is where you trust me.
You saw that in that book, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
That was the same, after the 8 hours in the hospital. I was brought home in a COVID cab. This guy was supposed to drive patients with COVID. He didn't want me in his car.
Scared.
Yeah, he didn't want me in his car, but he was driving for the COVID patients.
Exactly.
And he brought me home and dropped me off in the middle of the street. And I asked him, I said, can you go in the driveway? It's dark and I'm alone. He said, I don't go in driveways. So I could hear the neighbors next door. They were out working because they would do body work. I unlocked the door and I got in the house and I sat there for a minute. And he said, I heard it so clearly, this is where you trust me. And of course, yes, Lord, I trust you. And I asked my girlfriend, I called her up and I said, can you play "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" for me and record it? Because I want to listen to it. And I told her, that I said, I clearly heard the Lord say, this is where you trust me. And so in hearing that, and that gave me some assurance that he was going to be okay, but that's not what God meant at that moment. I realized that later. I believe that what God was saying to me is that I want you to trust me in whatever happens. Because I'm going to take him. I'm going to take your husband. But I want you to trust me to take care of you once I take him.
Wow.
I said, Lord, that's a hard pill.
Oh, yes.
That's a hard one.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You guys were married for, I read this is a title, a piece of the book that says, Saying Goodbye. After 30 years.
Yeah.
Somehow you had to find the strength to say that God doesn't make mistakes. I don't know if you want to talk about that, and then we go on into, I wrote down your celebration for who you call lovingly Mr.
Yes.
November 10th, 2021, you would have been married for 30 years. You want to talk a little bit about that? If you can. If you can't, then that's fine.
Ooh. It would have been 30 years.
Yeah, it would have been 30 years.
It would have been 30 years. Yeah, let's go to something else.
Yeah, okay. We want to talk about what was the car, that beautiful car of his? It was a yellow, I had it written down here now.
It was a Chevy SSR.
A Chevy SSR.
Yeah, canary yellow.
Oh my goodness. How long did he have that car?
He had that car for at least 10 years.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
it was adorable.
But let me tell you something, that little booger. He told me in the winter, he says, we're going to do our own snow this year. We're not going to pay people to come and plow our driveways. I'm going to go and buy us a truck. And he comes back home with a sports car, a convertible Chevy SSR.
Oh my God.
I said, we can't do snow with this car.
Oh my God.
He said, yeah, but it's a nice car. We can drive in the summertime with the top down.
Oh my God, it was adorable. I saw the picture of it. I was like, oh my God, oh, that's too cute. One thing I want to talk about, which was your support system. How important. I know I have a support system. It's my prayer partners. We have gone through so much together. So I would like for you to talk about your support system. Yes.
Well, Theresa, you and your prayer group have been part of my support system because I know that you guys had me in prayer on so many occasions. It got to the place I was almost saying, oh God, I don't want to ask them to pray for me again. But Linda said, no, we got you.
Yes.
Well, let me tell you about these amazing people. Our former First Lady, Sister Dolores Bolton, she organized the meal train, which every day I knew who was coming. I knew what was coming.
Wow.
I didn't have to worry about food. And the day he died, Linda Jones, Minister Linda Jones, Reverend Linda Jones, she organized a group of people, and they were outside at my kitchen window.
Wow.
I had COVID. Yeah.
How beautiful is
and
that?
they couldn't come in the house, so they were outside the kitchen window when the hospital called. And they went into prayer.
Wow.
Then the day after he passed, another group of people came.
Wow.
They sat outside, and Sister Dolores Bolton, again,
Wow.
I call her Sister D, she came, they sat out there, the ministers, the deacons. This group of people sat outside my window so that I didn't feel alone. So I had company, although, I was in the kitchen, and I kept my distance even being inside because, I could have coughed or anything, and it could have gone out through the screen, but these people, I cannot say enough about my church family, my friends, even my niece.
Angels on earth.
My niece was visiting from Arkansas. Her name is Keisha. And she said, Ma, let's figure out a way to go visit Aunt Jeannie. And they were the first ones to drive up to my kitchen window.
Wow.
And then the rest of is just,
beautiful is
yeah.
that?
And then when I felt
beautiful.
comfortable enough, I would go sit on the porch, because we had a nice, big, beautiful front porch.
Yeah, yeah.
And I would go sit on the front porch and receive guests.
Oh,
Never letting
wow.
anybody come in the house, though.
How beautiful is that to
Yeah.
have people there? Oh
Yeah,
my God, to
yeah.
sit outside and
I will never forget.
you know that you're loved.
Yes, that's my village. That was my village. Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Now, you surprised me when you came in, because I was going to talk about your chocolate. I would watch you. I know it's a little off script, but I would always see on Facebook or whatever when everybody would be talking about your chocolates, and you happened to bring me some in today. How did you get into doing the chocolates?
Actually, my nieces were making chocolates in Chicago, and I said, send me some, and they sent it to me. And you know, if I like something, I'm going to try it. And I asked them to walk me through the process. And once they did, I created my own process.
All right.
I'm a designer. I design, window treatments and stuff like that, bow ties and stuff. Plug.
That's right. Put that plug in, girl. That's right.
So I started creating. I have a friend, one of the reverends at my church. She is allergic to chocolates. So I came up with this salty caramel.
Okay.
And I made salty caramel peanut clusters for her. And then I started figuring out a way to make a turtle look like a turtle.
Yeah.
I did that. And then
Wow.
I decided, I like the combination of walnuts and coconuts together. So I created that and made clusters.
Yeah.
Then I came up with rum raisin.
Wow.
Somebody said something about rum raisin ice cream.
Uh-huh.
I said, you know what, I bet I can do that with chocolate.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And,
Wow.
and the rest is just history. I'm not a business, although I call it Jeannie's Chocolates. I like to do it and give it away.
Yeah.
A lot of times people want to buy it for gifts and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Yes, honey, come on with
Yeah.
it. And that's how it all got started. And I look for pretty boxes and stuff.
Do you think you're going to do something in the future to make it a business, or you just?
I would like to do that.
Yeah.
I sure would.
Yeah.
I would like to do that if I don't do anything else. Even if I don't make all of the ones that I make, I want to get my rum raisins out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I certainly hope you'll enjoy your box.
I know I will. I'm not even worried about that. The one thing I loved, and we're almost at the end of the story, and we want to keep talking about the fact that we have your book, and your book is going to be out. And when will it be released?
We're going to be releasing soon.
Oh, soon. Okay.
Yep,
All
very
right.
soon. I don't
All right.
have the exact date.
Okay.
But we're going to be releasing it soon. And you'll be able to get it on Amazon or through me.
Okay. All right. Before we end, the one thing that I loved about your book is that you went through this and you learned some things, and then we don't even want to get into negative stuff because we're talking about the wonderful.
Yes.
We're talking about life and wonderful things that happen.
Absolutely.
But what I loved about the book is that you didn't just go through it and then just forget about it, because you know that the things that you went through, you were saying, I'm sure you were saying, now I need to warn people that you need to put things in place and so that if they go through it, they will learn from what you went through.
Exactly.
So that's what I love. Can you talk about a little bit about what people should put in place?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. There's a page in the book that talks about, the things that I had to go through.
Yeah.
And the things I didn't know that I needed to do.
Yeah.
And the things that I lost as a
Yeah.
result of not
Yeah.
having done those things.
Yeah.
So I leave with your audience today, number one is to get a will. Because if you have a will, naming an executor over your estate, you don't have to worry about going through a probate court process. Number two, and I'm not an attorney,
Yeah.
I'm just a person who went through these things
through it,
and
yeah.
learned the hard way.
Yeah.
Number two, did you know that your bank accounts, a savings account, needs to have a beneficiary? Because if something happens to you and there's no will and there's no beneficiary listed, All of that goes into an estate account.
Wow.
The court gets to decide what happens
Wow.
to your money.
Wow.
Yes. The last thing is any properties owned, like your cars and everything.
Yeah.
Make sure both names are listed
Okay.
on the titles.
Okay.
That way you don't need
Right.
the
Right.
probate court to come in.
Right. Right.
I mean, if you just do those three things,
Uh-huh.
I mean, there's lots more that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
People put their stuff in trust. Whatever you do, make sure you do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Yeah.
let what happened to me happen to you.
Yeah. I really love that you just in your story that you went through all this stuff
Mhm.
and didn't leave a message.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that. And so is there any well, first of all, hold your book up again and talk about it. And when it
This is my book called More Than a COVID Story. And as we've been talking about, you know that I had COVID, and you also know that my husband died from COVID. I also had other family members to die from COVID. And what I would like to see happen is that we don't have any more people in the hospitals being separated from their families. Let's figure out a way that our family members don't have to die alone. I had to see my husband die on a Zoom. That's hard. Let's try to petition whomever, the CDC or whomever,
Yeah.
so that our family members do not have to die alone. And go and get the book when it comes out. You'll be hearing more about it.
Thank you, sweetheart. And again, I thank you so much for being here. And I know it was a tough one to talk about, but I thank you for taking the time and putting a positive spin on everything and trusting in God. And again, ending with not just going through your suffering, but also telling people what they can do.
Absolutely.
So that, and there goes that beautiful smile. There goes that beautiful smile. So thank you for being with us, with me here today. And Win TV to me is like a ministry.
Yes.
And I love to put positive stuff out there. We hear so many negative things.
Yes.
But I thank you. And I thank you for my chocolates. I can't wait to eat them.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it was my pleasure.
And this was a very safe place
Yeah.
to talk about my book, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And so you guys out there, I thank you so much since 2008, you guys been hanging in there with me. I thank you for continuing to watch Diversity in the Community, and I pray that you have a blessed day. Thank you.